The story of the Maria da Penha Law begins with an emblematic case of domestic violence that shocked Brazil and the world. It is one of the most important pieces of legislation in the country, aimed at protecting women from domestic and family violence. Let's understand the full context and developments surrounding this law, which is considered a milestone in the fight against gender-based violence. The case of Maria da Penha. Maria da Penha Maia Fernandes was born in 1945 in Fortaleza, Ceará. In 1983, she married a doctor who, from the beginning of their relationship, displayed aggressive and controlling behavior. Over the years of marriage, Maria da Penha suffered numerous physical and psychological abuses, but unfortunately, the violence only worsened with time. The peak of the violence occurred in 1983 when her husband attempted to kill her in two distinct ways. First, he shot her while she was sleeping. The bullet hit Maria da Penha in the back, leaving her paraplegic. Afterward, her husband tried to kill her again, this time by electrocuting her. Maria survived the attack, but was left with serious sequelae and became dependent on medical care. Despite clear evidence that she was a victim of domestic violence, the perpetrator was never properly punished. The case dragged on for more than 20 years in the Brazilian judicial system. Maria da Penha then decided to fight against a judicial system that seemed to fail in protecting her. She persistently sought justice, and with the support of human rights groups, the case was taken to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, IACHR, within the Organization of American States, OAS. In 2001, the Inter-American Court condemned Brazil for violating Maria da Penha's human rights, stating that the Brazilian state had failed to provide her with necessary protection from domestic violence. The court also highlighted the prolonged impunity and lack of effectiveness in Brazil's judicial system in punishing the perpetrator. This ruling was a turning point. Brazil's condemnation by the OAS generated international pressure for the country to implement significant changes to its legislation, particularly regarding domestic violence. Brazil then publicly committed to adopting legal measures and policies to more effectively combat violence against women. The creation of the Maria da Penha Law. Following the international condemnation, Brazil began mobilizing to create specific legislation to protect women from domestic violence. The creation of a new law gained momentum as a direct response to the failure of the justice system to provide protection and punishment to aggressors. The Maria da Penha Law was enacted by President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on August 7, 2006, after a long process of debate in Congress and with the active participation of feminist movements and human rights organizations. The law was named in honor of Maria da Penha Maia Fernandes, who, through her courage and persistence, became a symbol of the fight against domestic violence in Brazil. The Maria da Penha Law, Law No. 11-340/2006, introduced several legal innovations aimed at tackling domestic and family violence more comprehensively and effectively. It establishes protective measures for women and harsher punishments for aggressors. Main achievements of the Maria da Penha Law. 1. Broader definition of domestic violence. The Maria da Penha Law encompasses not only physical violence but also psychological, sexual, patrimonial, and moral violence. This allows for a more comprehensive understanding of the problem of domestic violence, including forms of abuse that are often invisible or neglected. 2. Urgent protective measures. The law ensures that, in cases of violence, the victim can obtain urgent protective measures, such as the aggressor being removed from the home, contact being prohibited, and the suspension of weapon possession. These measures can be requested immediately without the need to wait for the completion of legal proceedings. 3. Creation of specialized domestic violence courts. The law also establishes specialized courts to handle cases of domestic and family violence against women. These courts are responsible for dealing with protective measures, criminal cases, and other aspects related to violence against women. 4. Increased penalties. The Maria da Penha Law establishes harsher penalties for aggressors and includes the aggravating factor of domestic violence in sentencing. If the violence occurs in the context of domestic violence, the penalties are increased, including femicide, the killing of a woman for gender-based reasons, which was classified as a heinous crime. 5. Support network. The law also provides for the creation of a support network for women, including specialized services such as women's police stations, assistance centers, and temporary shelters. This support network aims to ensure that women who are victims of violence receive integrated care, including legal, psychological, and social support. 6. Training for professionals. The Maria da Penha Law also requires that police officers, judges, prosecutors, public defenders, and other professionals in the security and justice sectors be trained to handle cases of domestic violence with an approach that respects women's rights and the specificities of these cases. Impact of the law and challenges. Since its creation, the Maria da Penha Law has brought significant advances in the fight against domestic violence, but it has also faced challenges. The law has helped raise awareness about the severity of violence against women and the importance of eradicating it. The establishment of specialized domestic violence courts and women's police stations was also an important advance. However, the effective implementation of the law still faces obstacles, especially in more remote or underserved areas where services for women are insufficient. In some regions, patriarchal culture and a lack of resources make it difficult to fully apply protective measures and punish aggressors. Furthermore, many women still face difficulties in reporting violence, whether due to fear of retaliation, lack of information, or even emotional or financial dependence on the aggressor. Maria da Penha today. Maria da Penha has become a prominent figure in the fight against domestic violence. She travels across Brazil and the world advocating for women's rights and the implementation of the Maria da Penha Law. Her story of overcoming adversity and her tireless activism serve as an inspiration for many women facing similar situations. In 2019, Maria da Penha was honored by the UN, receiving the title of Goodwill Ambassador in recognition of her work and trajectory. Conclusion. The Maria da Penha Law represented a revolution in the treatment of domestic violence in Brazil, establishing strict measures for prevention, protection, and punishment. However, the fight against violence against women is still an ongoing challenge, and it is essential for Brazilian society to remain engaged in the full implementation of this law, always striving to ensure equal rights and safety for all women. This story of struggle and transformation, beginning with Maria da Penha's pain and culminating in the creation of one of Brazil's most important laws, continues to inspire all those who believe in a fairer and more equal world.